If you're looking to take your pictures and videos to the next level by giving them the vintage film look, I have the perfect software for you, and it's called Dehancer. Dehancer is a film emulation software perfect for any level creator from beginner to professional. They have plugins available for all the major platforms such as DaVinci, Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, After Effects, Lightroom, Photoshop, and more. They have over 60 film profiles that work with all the major camera brands. And the best part about all this is that they gave me a code to give to you for 10% off your Dehancer purchase, which you can find down in the video description. Dehancer is also available for iOS, which you can download in the App Store. So if you record on your phone a lot, you have that available to you as well. Now I can tell you about Dehancer all day, but I feel like it's better to show you. So I'm going to take you into Final Cut Pro to show you the entire process of how I get my modern day footage into that vintage film look. Let's jump in here. I'm going to upload a clip that I took from a engagement shoot a while back. So this was shot on a Canon R6 Mark II, and currently I have a Sony a7 IV and I'm looking to sell, but that's another story for another time. But this was shot on the Canon R6 Mark II. So what are we going to do to start off with this image? So the first thing I like to do with all my log clips is to, let me find a good shot here. I think that's fine right here. So I don't really want to show their faces just out of, respect for the couple, but this was, like I said, an engagement shoot. So this is the shot we're going to kind of look at. Turn the volume down, it's not important. So the first thing we're going to do is add a LUT. So we're going to go here, and I'm in Final Cut Pro, by the way. So we're going to go in here, search LUT. We're going to double click, and it's going to come up here, custom LUT, and I have a bunch of LUTs here that I don't use because at the beginning of my journey, I was like, well, if I buy LUTs, I'm going to be good. That's not the case, obviously. So I'm going to use this Aether LUT, which is the LUT I created, and that's going to give us a pretty good starting out image. So from here, we can look at the colors or vectors, waveforms. We can look at the waveforms and see how we're looking. So we see that we're kind of on the zeros. So I'm probably going to add a color wheels and boost up those shadows because I don't want my shadows absolutely crushed. So we're going to bring those up just a little bit. And then we're also going to bring up those mids just a little bit. Cool. And I think we can bring up the highlights just a little bit too, just a little bit. All right. So now that we got this image squared away color-wise, I can close the waveform. So the only thing we're going to be looking at is this inspector. So now that we added our LUT, we can hide that. And now we're going to go back into here and we're going to hit search Dehancer. And this is our film emulation software that we're going to be working with. So it gives you kind of a basic Rec 709 look when you first open it, but I want to get it specific to what I want to work with. So like I said, this was shot on a Canon R6 Mark II. So the source, I could leave it at Rec 709, but I will only do that if I was shooting in a neutral picture profile in Rec 709. So just standard profile 4K, I will leave it in Rec 709, but I shot this in log. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to choose camera. As you see, you have some options here. You have Rec 2020, Apple Gamma, Cineon Film, but I'm gonna go to choose camera so I can get the most accurate starting spot I can get. So choose camera, vendor, I'm gonna go to Canon, and then you have a bunch of different options. So you have every single R camera except for the R50 and the R100. You have the M50 in here, which I thought was pretty interesting, but you don't have the R50, R100, but you have the R, R5, R5C, R6, R6 Mark II, R7, R8, boom, boom, boom. So like I said, they're shot on R6 Mark II, and this was shot in C-Log3 C-Log3 BT709. So this is the picture we're looking at to start. Now, I don't like this picture to start because it's a little blown. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some exposure compensation. We're gonna bring that exposure, how far down do we wanna bring that? We wanna bring that down just a little bit. That should be good right there. Now temperature compensation to the right is gonna be warm, to the left is going to be cold. So I want that to to warm up just a little bit. So we're gonna take that about 9 is fine. And so then we got all that correction out the way. Now this is a decently looking image that we're working with. So here, let's hide this. So here we're gonna go to film. So you can start off with a film profile. So when you click on here, you're gonna have a bunch of different options to choose from when it comes to your film profile. Everything from Agfa to Astrum to Cinestill to Fuji to Kodak, Konica, all the Polaroid, like all these options you can choose from. I think my favorite one, I think I did the Fuji C200, if I'm not mistaken. No, it wasn't Fuji 200. Which one was it? It was Instax. That's what it was. So I like the Instax profile. So whatever you shoot is going to be completely up to you. You're going to have to choose what profile works for you and what you're shooting. So this is going to be what I want to start with. So Fuji Instax profile. Then we're gonna go to the film developer. This is gonna be your contrast, your gamma, your color separation, color boost. Color boost is just being saturation. I'm not going to do anything with this just because I naturally don't touch it, but you have this here if you wanna boost contrast, gamma, color separation, or you wanna add some saturation. So actually, you know what? I'm gonna enable this and I'm gonna add a little bit of saturation, just a little bit. Like, yeah, that's fine right there. Okay. So let's hide that. So now the next you have film compression. I'm not gonna do anything with this, but if you do a lot of film compression in your videos or you're wanting the film compression, then you can do that here. And then you have the expand. Again, I'm not gonna do anything with this. If you want to, you can, but I'm not going to, so I'm gonna hide that. For print, you have different profiles for print here. You have Cine and Film Log, you got Fujifilm, Kodak, and Kodak glossy paper. I usually just keep it linear, but I do kind of like the glossy paper look too. But that adds just a little bit more contrast, but I'm just gonna keep it linear. I wanna keep it linear because I want kind of a blank canvas to really play on. And when I start adding all these profiles, it kind of almost compresses the image because it's doing too much to the picture. And I don't want it to be cooked, okay? So I'm gonna leave that on linear. I'm not gonna change anything here, so I'm going to hide that. Now, color head is where you can kind of do an interesting with the colors. So you see over here, yellow, blue, magenta, green, cyan, and red. So if I was to move this slider here, of course, it will be blue. And then if I was, well, I gotta enable it first. So if I was to move this here, it'll be blue. And then if I was to move this here, it will be yellow. So what I like to do in this, actually, there's a button here called gang. Gang, 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 gang. Anyway, so gang just adjusts all the sliders at once. So I wanna pull all the sliders here, about 11's fine to get that image. Shadow tone, so for the shadow tone, mid-tones, and highlight tones, to the right is gonna be warm, and then to the left is going to be cool. So I want a warm image, because I feel like in a lot of film, there's not really like cool film per se, but I mean, I could be wrong. Mid-tones, I want that warm because the mid-tones are gonna be the skin tones most likely. More often than not, it's gonna be skin tones. And then for the highlights, actually the highlights, I'm probably gonna bring kind of on the cool side because it was kind of close to blue hour out. So not anything major, just a little bit on the cool side. So we're doing that, and I think that's fine right there. So we're good with the color head, we'll hide that. Now this section is probably my favorite section. So you have film grain, you have halation, you have bloom, and you have film damage, film breathe, yada yada. So film grain is what it sounds like. It's adding grain to your film. So you can choose between 8mm, and you can choose between the ISO, 16mm, 35, or 65. So I like to keep this at 35, just how it comes. Halation, that's going to be kind of like if you've ever used a mist filter, like a black mist filter or something like that. It just gives like a little bit of a bloom to your image, not to be mistaken with the actual bloom. But so if I was to enable this, you might see a little bit of a difference. Y'all can let me know in the comments if y'all see a little bit of difference. It's very minimal, but I usually don't do anything with halation, but I do usually turn on the bloom. The bloom is gonna give it kind of a softer look. So think of it as, I'm triggering it on and off. I don't know if y'all can see that, but you can see it a lot in the whites on the ground. When I turn on the bloom, it just kind of like blooms it up. So you can kind of think of both of those like a mist filter, but they do kind of different things. So halation is more so like color fringing, if you will, and then blooming is just like, you know, blooming or misting or whatever. So film damage is, you know, if you look at old film and you see like lines in the film or streaks in the film or something like that, it just gives it that vintage look. I typically turn this on and then I go to 65 because that gives me the most damage. And it's not gonna be to the point where it's absolutely destroying your film, but it just adds another creative look. So film breadth, I don't do anything with that, and gate weave, I don't do anything with that. So we'll go ahead and close this. So, oh, I gotta close each one. Okay, close. Okay, overscan, I think is super interesting. So if I was to enable this, you'll see what it does. So it just kind of gives it like that border over here. So you might have seen that in like old timey films. So you have your gate type, you have, you know, Super 8 that you can choose between, you have standard, you have all these to choose from. So it's really up to you. It depends on what look you're going for. I like the Super 16, or the Super 16, and there was another one that I really liked. Which one was it? It was the widescreen? It was the Ultra. No, it was the Ultra or Super 16. It was the Super 16. Yeah. So I like this. Look, that's just me personally. Again, you're going to decide which one you like better. So it's completely up to you. You can get creative as much as you want for your picture. So film orientation, you can choose between vertical and horizontal. That's going to be completely up to you. I like to keep it vertical because it was shot vertical, so it's a 16:9. You know, gate shape, you can choose between, you know, rounded or normal or whatever. So, and then the perforation mode, it can choose between negative and positive. So that's just going to go from black to white. That's literally the only difference. If you don't want those on, you can turn those off too. So again, you can adjust exposure and things like that down here, which I don't do anything with. So I just add what overscan I like and let that be that. So we'll go ahead and hide that. So vignetting is vignetting. If you know vignetting, if you're a photographer, then you know what it is. So that's basically just gonna add like a circular haze to your film. I personally don't do anything with that. And this is just gonna blow everything out. This is just gonna make everything white. So I'm gonna set that back to 0 and then I'm gonna hit disable, but that is an option for you if you wanna do that. And then this part is really cool. I think this is really cool. So you can see false color. So after you make all your adjustments, if you want to see like, oh, is anything blown out or am I underexposing anything? Then, you know, you just hit false color and this will show you what is properly exposed, what's overexposed, what's underexposed. And it gives you your little graph to this side. So green and that gray is going to be that maximum exposure that you're gonna want. And then the pink is just gonna be like slightly overexposed, but not to the point where it's blown out. So you just see the people, like the skin is like kind of pink, the clothes, he's wearing a dark color, so that's gonna look underexposed naturally. Hers is right at that green mark, she was wearing green. And so you see nothing in the picture is like a yellow, like a bright yellow, orange, or red. You have some reflection from these windows that's a little yellow, but that's not the end of the world. So looking at false color is, you know, key. So if you don't use false color, it is good to learn, I don't typically use false color a whole lot, but ever since I got my monitor, I have started learning false color, especially now that I'm helping out on video production and stuff like that. It's just something that's good to know. So you have that false color there for you to check to see if anything is burnt or blown out or not. So output, total impact. I typically don't do anything with this, but this is just gonna tell you, like, if you take it off, then it's gonna give you the raw image that you start off with. And then if you put it back on, it's just gonna add all the settings that you already had. So the output doesn't really make sense to turn it off if you're doing all this stuff, okay? Now I think this part is really cool. This is a LUT generator. So you can actually take these settings that you're using in Dehancer and export it as a LUT. So you can export it as a small size or a normal size. And so what you're gonna do, if you wanna export it, you would hit export and you will be able to, this computer's taking a while, but yeah, my computer's pretty slow. Don't judge me. Okay, so you'd be able to export and you kind of choose like where you want to save it to. So typically I'll save it under my LUTs. I'm not going to export it now because I don't want to. So we'll go back here. So you have that option to export it as a LUT, and then you have some licensing info down here. So I think real quick, what I'm going to do is fix the exposure just a little bit. I'm gonna just raise it just a little bit. And yeah, so that's how I go from start to finish with Dehancer. And this is the final image. And just like that, you got a vintage film look. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And remember, down in the description below, I have a code. Use the code CAMPHOTO10 for 10% off your Dehancer purchase. And I just want to give a big thank you to Dehancer for choosing me to work with them on this project. So hopefully this video is of some value to everybody who watched. Make sure you go down in the description and click the link on the website and get your Dehancer software for yourself so you can revamp your photos and your videos. With that being said, until next time, peace.